Shall we? Zaire asked, a teasing light in his eyes as he extended a hand towards her. Wrenna hesitated only a heartbeat before taking it, her pulse quickening at the contact. He pulled her into the throng, laughter swirling around as they melded into the crowd. The music pulsed rhythmically, coaxing their bodies to sway in harmony. As they danced, Zaire's hands found their way to her waist, steady yet possessive, drawing her closer. She felt the heat radiating between them, inching closer, melting the barriers they'd built around their hearts. "You are the best thing that's happened to me this year," he murmured, his breath sending shivers down her spine. "Are you sure about that?" Wrenna teased, though there was a tremor of uncertainty in her voice. "I've been known to bring a bit of chaos with my creativity." His smirk deepened, holding her gaze with intensity that made her breath catch. "Chaos or not, I'd choose you every time." The weight of his words lingered like the scent of sandalwood in the air. Their eyes locked, and in that moment the world around them melted away. The laughter, the music, the vibrant chatter, all faded into a hushed stillness. Wrenna felt herself lean in, her heart racing as Zaire's lips brushed just above hers, a tantalizing tease suspended in time. A soft sigh escaped her as she surrendered to the pull between them. It was more than a kiss. It was hope, longing, and the promise of healing. Then, as the music swelled, they finally closed the distance, sealing that moment with a kiss that spoke of uncharted futures and wrapped up histories, before fading into the warmth of night and the promise of tomorrow. Scene 97. Reflections on Love. The evening draped itself around the old Vanderbilt mansion like a soft, worn blanket, shadows dancing in rhythm with the flickering candlelight that illuminated the grand parlor. The air, thick with the sweet scent of jasmine from the blooming garden outside, felt charged with unspoken words and lingering glances. Wrenna studied the walls, adorned with her grandmother's vibrant artwork, each stroke reminiscent of a life full of color and chaos. She leaned slightly against the mantelpiece, her fingers brushing the cool, worn surface, a grounding touch amidst the swirling emotions. Zaire entered through the wide archway, his tall frame silhouetted against the soft illumination of the setting sun that spilled golden light into the room. His presence filled the space with a magnetism that made the air crackle, an electric tension woven with affection and longing. He sidestepped a low, sumptuous armchair and moved closer to her, his gaze intense, as if trying to decipher the unspoken thoughts flitting behind her expressive eyes. "It's beautiful in here," he remarked, his voice low and warm, enveloping her like a familiar embrace. "Your grandmother certainly knew how to fill a space with life." "Life and secrets," Wrenna replied, the weight of her past thickening the atmosphere. She turned slightly, caught in the memory of hidden letters and whispered stories. "This place holds more than just art. It's a monument to the battles fought and lost." "Like us." Zaire stepped closer, reducing the distance between them until the tips of their shoes almost touched. "We're still navigating our own battles, aren't we?" For a moment, silence settled over them, a breathless pause pregnant with possibilities. The dusky light illuminated the hues in Zaire's eyes, a molten mix of determination and vulnerability, rendering her speechless. She couldn't shake the feeling that every heartbeat echoed a shared understanding. "I've spent so long running from my past," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's hard to trust that she faltered, grappling with the fearful shadows of unworthiness that had haunted her for years. "That I deserve this." His fingers brushed her arm, a feather-light touch igniting warmth beneath her skin. "You deserve everything, Wrenna," he said, the intensity of his stare washing over her like a wave. "You have to believe that." Wrenna inhaled deeply, her heart fluttering with a blend of fear and desire. She knew her struggles were part of her journey, but standing so close to Zaire, the outside world faded away. He was her anchor in a tempest. "And you?" she asked, her brow furrowing slightly. "Do you believe you deserve love?" The weight of his past lay heavy upon his shoulders, the ruthlessness that so often shadowed him in his world of crime. He took a half step back, as if pulling away from an unveiling. "I've done terrible things, Wrenna," he said, the rough edge of honesty knitting his words. "But all I want is to love you without the shadows." "Then let's meet each other in the light," she replied, emboldened. A small flicker of hope ignited within her, hope that perhaps they both could overcome the weight of their pasts together. Zaire stepped forward again, this time more decisively, his fingers finding her chin, tilting her gaze upward so their eyes locked in an unyielding embrace of understanding. Together, he affirmed, and the promise in his voice vibrated through her, echoing the thunderstorm brewing outside the mansion's thick walls. As the first raindrops pattered against the window, she saw him in that moment, the fierce protector who stood unyielding against every storm. I refuse to let the fear of what has happened define who I can be with you. With a breath that tasted of anticipation, Wrenna's lips parted slightly, invitingly. Zaire leaned in, their breaths mingling in the charged air, the world outside fading into a distant hum. When their lips met, it was a softly enveloping firework, a fusion of warmth, solace, and lingering promises of protection. She melted into him, every caress celebrating the resilience they both bore. But within that shared moment, the thunder clapped outside, haunting and urgent, the rush of rain against the window crash, landing them back to their reality. Zaire, she murmured, her voice breaking through the quiet storm of emotions. What will happen when the world finds out? He tilted his head, a soft smile teasing the corners of his lips. Tonight, we let the storm rage. Tomorrow, we'll face whatever comes together. As they stood entwined in the warmth of each other's embrace, the night thrummed with the promise of love and defiance against whatever darkness lay ahead. Scene 98, facing new challenges. The sun hung low over D.C. skyline, casting long shadows over the bustling street below. A recent storm had left the air heavy, each breath thick with the earthy scent of rain-soaked asphalt. In Zaire Vellore's penthouse, the clinking of ice and glasses punctuated the tension, each sound amplified in the stillness that followed Wrenna Vanderbilt's question. Why now, Zaire? Why do you feel the need to expand your operations when we both know how precarious everything is? Wrenna leaned against the sleek kitchen island, the polished granite cool beneath her fingers. Her brow furrowed, a flicker of doubt clouding her sharp, expressive eyes. Zaire stood near the expansive window, his silhouette framed by the fading sunlight. He turned toward her, the harsh lines of his face softened by the golden glow, yet his expression was steely. Because keeping things the same is a recipe for disaster. You know that better than anyone. His voice was calm, but a restless energy crackled in the air between them. Is that really what you believe? She pushed back, crossing her arms as she moved closer, the scent of her jasmine perfume breaking through the tension like summer rain on parched soil. Or is that just another way to justify your next move? Outside, a distant rumble of thunder echoed, and a drop of rain spattered against the glass, mirroring the storm brewing just beneath their conversation. Zaire's gaze flicked momentarily to the window before locking onto hers. This isn't just about me or my business. This is about us, Wrenna. The stronger I am, the safer you are. She softened at his words but remained unconvinced. But at what cost? Increasing the risk makes it all so much less stable. You know that, right? Wrenna stepped closer, the tentative connection a mix of warmth and trepidation. Her heart raced, knowing the delicate dance they performed, each word a step closer to either communion or chaos. Zaire's jaw tightened as he raked a hand through his short curls, frustration evident in his fidgeting. I didn't choose this life, Wrenna. It chose me, he said, his stance shifting from defensive to vulnerable, almost pleading. But I can't turn my back on it, not if it means losing you. She inhaled deeply, the mending scent of fresh paint from her latest canvas, mingling with the spice of his cologne intoxicating yet darkly alluring. I worry that your decisions are going to entrap you. Us, she whispered, her tone a melody of caution and yearning. Just then, the door burst open, and Parker Zaire's loyal right hand stumbled in, panting, his shirt partially unbuttoned and hair askew. Boss, we've got a situation. The shipment. Not now, Parker, Zaire snapped, his eyes flashing with irritation. Then, turning back to Wrenna, he softened. I'll fix this. Just give me time. But the reassurance hung in the air like the humidity, not quite satisfying. Can you promise that? The question lingered, suspended amid the chaos. Before Zaire could respond, the heavy, frustrated breaths of their friend Liz slid into the room, her hands laden with a stack of papers. I need to talk to you, Wrenna. It's the fundraiser. She looked between them, sensing the palpable tension. Is this a bad time? Always. Zaire's voice dripped with sarcasm, but his attention remained on Wrenna, unwilling to let her retreat into the storm of their argument. Liz forged on, her brows knitted together in concern. We need to organize the event better. The venue's pushing us for details, and if we don't act now, we could lose the crowd to someone else. Wrenna turned to Liz, grateful for the interruption. I can take a look, but he's trying to dig deeper into the underworld, Parker interjected, exasperation evident in his voice, and that's going to put everything and everyone at risk. Excuse me? Zaire shot back, his voice low and dangerous. You're not in charge of my decisions. I will not be cowed, especially not by a shipment problem. Parker swallowed hard, backing down under Zaire's intensity. Just trying to keep us all safe, man. Wrenna felt the tension in her chest tighten. Everyone's trying to keep you safe, Zaire, but how about you keep yourself safe too? Her voice trembled as frustration spilled over, echoing in the room. Zaire stepped forward, closing the distance between them. I can't do it without you. I refuse to let fear dictate where we go next. The warmth of his body radiated toward her, an unyielding force of both danger and invitation. The electricity buzzed between them, igniting her resolve amidst the chaos surrounding them. Then let's figure this out together. I won't let you down, he vowed, his voice raw and true. Just don't lose yourself in the process, she replied softly, their connection palpable amid the discord. The exterior storm began to gather momentum, but inside they found a fragile hope flickering in the dimming light. Scene 99, Family Matters. The sun dipped low in the sky, splashing amber and rosy hues across the sprawling grounds of the Vanderbilt mansion. Wrenna Vanderbilt stood in the grand foyer, its polished marble floor reflecting the golden light like a mirror. She clutched her grandmother's lace shawl, frail and delicate. It felt like a thin veil against the weight of the secrets she was unearthing. Zaire Vellore entered behind her with heavy steps, his usual confident, commanding presence softened slightly in the elegant space. He glanced at Wrenna, his voice steady. This place is a treasure, but it holds shadows too. Wrenna turned, the fabric slipping from her fingers as she let out a breath. Every corner of this house feels alive with stories, but I didn't know the darkness it contained. She gestured toward an ornately framed portrait of her grandmother, a complex figure radiating warmth and strength, yet shadowed by a distant sorrow in her eyes. Zaire stepped closer, his gaze lingering on the portrait. Your grandmother was formidable. You're more like her than you realize. She raised an eyebrow, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. Do you really think so? I often wonder if I can be as strong. He shifted, closing the space between them, warmth radiating from his body. Strength doesn't always mean standing tall. Sometimes it's facing the truth. Wrenna's heart quickened at his proximity, a dance of warmth igniting the air between them. She looked down, torn between vulnerability and the desire to hide. Yet the connection felt inescapable, dragging her back up to meet his steady gaze. In the neighboring room, laughter spilled from a gathering of their friends, Jasper cracking jokes, while Lila's melody swept through the air. The family dynamics unfolded like an intricate tapestry, glorious and tangled. But here, with Zaire, the world outside faded. Their intimacy felt like a potent spell. They're a good crew, Zaire said, nodding toward the laughter. They'll support you, no matter what you choose. Wrenna frowned slightly. But what if my choices bring trouble? My past, it haunts me still. Her voice trembled at the admission, the weight of it pressing down. Zaire softened at her honesty. You're not alone in this. I'll fight for you, whatever that looks like. The intensity of his gaze sent a shiver down her spine. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the adjoining room, interrupting their moment. A table toppled over, sending plates and laughter spiraling into chaos. Wrenna chuckled, an unexpected sense of relief washing over her as she watched Jasper hastily gather the fallen dishes, his charisma never fading. Is this our daily chaos? Zaire's lips curved, amusement shining through the tension. It seems like it. We thrive amidst the madness. Before Wrenna could respond, Zaire stepped to the side, pulling her gently but firmly toward him, as if bracing against an unseen storm. He brushed his thumb across her cheek, his touch tender yet filled with a hint of urgency. Wrenna, he murmured, if you want to share the burden, I want to. she interjected, leaning into his hand. The declaration hung in the air, heavy and electric. I'm scared. Fear is a part of love, he whispered, and the reassurance in his voice wrapped around her like a warm blanket. Before she could think twice, Wrenna bridged the distance, pressing her forehead against his. The breath between them was thick with possibility and emotion, a silent understanding that transcended their individual pasts. There was no frantic urgency here, just a profound connection, alive and pulsing between them. As if the ruckus faded into a distant hum, Wrenna let herself melt against him, a sigh escaping her lips. Zaire's fingers intertwined with her hair, grounding and liberating all at once. The room outside erupted in another fit of laughter, and she chuckled at the irony life was chaos, yet here was peace. "We can weather this, right?" she asked against his skin, her breath mingling with the scent of his cologne, smoky, rich, and intoxicating. "Together always," Zaire replied, his voice a promise, sealing a bond nurtured in vulnerability. As the sound of their friends reflected a vibrant world around them, Wrenna finally believed this moment could linger, like a perfect melody caught in a fleeting heartbeat, ready to be cherished anew. Scene 100, Strengthening Bonds. The sun dipped low behind the looming oak trees, casting a golden hue over the vibrant community hall, where laughter melded with the intoxicating scent of spiced barbecue. Zaire Vellore surveyed the scene with a keen eye, subtly adjusting his cufflinks as he prepared for the evening event, a community fundraiser that wasn't merely about raising money but about stitching together the frayed edges of his and Wrenna's lives. Wrenna Vanderbilt emerged from the crowd, the fading light kicking up iridescent flecks in her deep brown eyes, brightening her smile. She wore a flowing, floral dress that danced around her knees, adding an ethereal quality to her presence. Zaire's heart thrummed with a peculiar mix of pride and unease. They were not just inhabitants of this community. They were its lifeblood. Yet the shadows of Zaire's past loomed like storm clouds across the brightening horizon. "Hey," she said, her voice edged with a playful lilt, her hands resting casually on her hips. "Do you think we'll actually get anyone to bid, or are they just here for your charming smile?" "Charming. I prefer devastatingly handsome." He laughed, his gaze teasing her with a hint of mischief. "But seriously, they'll bid. They love us." A pause hung thick in the air, punctuated by the soft chatter of neighbors gossiping and friends reminiscing. Wrenna stepped a bit closer, her voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. "You know, sometimes I think you talk tough to distract from the fact that you care too much." Zaire arched an eyebrow, then leaned slightly, a mock-serious expression crossing his face. "Me care? Never." Their banter drew unwanted attention. A gaggle of friends meandered over, laughter spilling into the warm evening air. Mario, a well-built man with a booming laugh, clapped Zaire on the back. "Zaire, you've got to make that speech. Man, the people need to hear from their dear old crime boss." "Crime boss?" Wrenna feigned shock, placing a hand over her heart. "I've never heard it called that before." More laughter danced around them, easing Zaire's anxiety. His friends were loyal, supportive, a constant reminder that they had an unbreakable bond. Then came Jasmine, effortlessly beautiful, with her curly hair cascading over her shoulders like a waterfall. "We're counting on you, Zaire. And Wrenna, be ready to swoon when he speaks. His charisma is off the charts." As laughter echoed, Wrenna bit back a grin. "Actually, I'll probably roll my eyes at his rehearsed lines." "Who says they're rehearsed?" Zaire shot back playfully, the melody of their connection humming louder amidst the chatter. "Trust me, the whole neighborhood knows about your captivating ways," Jasmine teased, her smirk widening. A quick conversation erupted just to their left, where a couple argued over an unfulfilled promise made years ago, their voices rising like steam. Zaire rolled his eyes but couldn't help but feel a pang of empathy. Their struggles mirrored the emotional turbulence hanging in the air, inching closer to his own hidden realities. Wrenna, noticing his sudden shift, turned towards him, her expression softening. The room felt smaller, their shared glance thick with unspoken understanding. "We're stronger together, right? It's not just about raising funds. We're building a legacy." "Yeah," he replied, a seriousness touching his tone. "But legacies can be fragile. One wrong move and—" "Don't finish that thought." Wrenna's voice firmed, grounding him in the moment. "Let's focus on the here and now. The tension was interrupted by a sudden shout from the back, a moment of panicked chaos that raised the hairs on the back of Zaire's neck. He reflexively stepped into a protective stance, his instincts kicking in. They weren't merely safe here, they were also under its shadows. With Wrenna's hand subtly slipping into his, they locked eyes, and for a fleeting moment the noise around them faded to silence. It was a promise, a shared commitment to confront whatever lay ahead together. "Are you ready for this?" Zaire asked, his voice low, his heart racing in response to her presence. "Always," she replied, her grip tightening, and in that simple word, he found the strength he needed. As the evening unfolded, laughter erupted anew when Zaire finally took the stage, his voice strong as he spoke to the heart of the community. Wrenna watched, her smile radiant, a flame of warmth ignited within her. Through the haze of occasional raised voices and lively arguments, their hearts intertwined in the brilliant tapestry of the night, each thread stronger together, every bond fortified in the echoes of laughter and shared purpose. Little did they know, the night was still young, and secrets lurked in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to unveil themselves. Yet here, in this moment, beneath the twinkling lights, the strength of their bond felt impenetrable. Scene 101. Understanding Fears. The moon poured a silvery glow through the rain-spattered windows of Wrenna's ornate parlor. The sound of droplets pattering against the old glass mingled with the hushed conversation bubbling between Wrenna and Zaire. They sat on either end of a plush settee, each grappling with the weight of their lives. "So what are you afraid of, really?" Zaire leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees, his intensity palpable. The tension hung thick, a tightrope strung between them. Wrenna was momentarily caught off guard. Her fingers absently traced the delicate embroidery of the settee, avoiding his burning gaze. "I'm not afraid," she deflected, though the tremble in her voice betrayed her. "Not even a little," Zaire pressed, a half-smile playing on his lips, his curiosity cutting through her walls. "You're standing on the edge of your dream and looking down. That's terrifying." The flicker of candlelight danced on Wrenna's skin, highlighting her determination, but it also cast shadows across her eyes. "Fine," she sighed, inhaling sharply as she summoned a flicker of vulnerability. "I'm afraid of what you do, of who you are." Her voice lowered, trembling, as if admitting her tremors aloud would make them all the more real. Zaire straightened, his expression unreadable. Outside, the night was painting shadows that hinted at danger, yet Wrenna found herself fixated on the weight of Zaire's presence, drawing her closer even as the distance between them felt broader than the room itself. "You think I'm dangerous. I think you're—" She hesitated, words wrapping around her heart like vines. "More complicated than I know." "I've made my choices," he said, a note of defiance threading his tone. "But every choice has its price, and I don't want you paying it." He studied her, a tempest of emotions flickering across his dark eyes. "You're worth so much more." Before Wrenna could respond, laughter erupted from the dining room, where the rest of their eclectic suite of friends had gathered. Maya, a local artist with a penchant for mischief, was demonstrating an absurdly elaborate dance routine aimed at eliciting cheers from her fellow artists. "Would you take a look at that?" Zaire chuckled, his serious demeanor cracking under the warmth of their friends' merriment. A flicker of pride seemed to spark between them. Among friends, life held joy, even in the darkest corners. "Maybe we should join them," Wrenna suggested, hoping to deflect, her chest fluttering with a fateful pull. "They seem to be having the time of their lives." "Is that your way of changing the subject?" he teased lightly, yet his gaze turned serious as he caught her eye. "I care too much about you to just let this go." Wrenna held his stare, the air humming with tension. "You're asking me to understand something I'm terrified of. You make my pulse race, Zaire, but I don't know how to reconcile that with the world you live in." "Then let's understand it together," he proposed, reaching for her hand. His touch was warm, and it brushed away her doubts, if only for a moment. "I'll show you my life, the dark parts and the light, but you have to promise not to run when it gets scary." Wrenna's heart raced as she considered his words. "And what if I don't like what I see?" "Then I'll figure something out," Zaire replied, his voice steady yet laced with a hint of vulnerability. "But I won't lie to you, Wrenna. You deserve everything, and I refuse to let fear dictate our future." Before she could respond, a sudden shout echoed through the parlor, followed by the unmistakable sound of a vase shattering on the floor. Laughter erupted, mingling with gasps. The same group, fueled energy that once felt comforting, now brimming with chaos. "Let's just think of this as life interrupting," Zaire said, a wry smile now tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Shall we go see what's happening?" Wrenna chuckled, her fears momentarily forgotten amid the absurdity. "Life does have a way of throwing curveballs, huh?" "So does love," Zaire said, a challenge gleaming in his eyes, "and we'll keep playing until we get it right." As they shared a smile, the laughter from the dining room swelled, pulling them from their moment, yet a powerful connection lingered between them. Just as the future loomed, so too did the promise of understanding, an uncharted territory of their own making. Scene 102. Challenging stereotypes. Wrenna leaned against the antique wrought iron railing of the mansion's terrace, the sun bleeding golden rays across the sprawling garden. The fragrant scent of blooming lilacs mingled with the distant sounds of laughter from a small gathering event they had hosted that day. Zaire stood a few paces away, arms crossed, his expression stoic but eyes flashing with a challenge. "What do you mean you want to fight against the gentrification of the neighborhood?" Zaire asked, his voice low and steady, yet tinged with disbelief. The sunlight caught the sharp angles of his face, rendering him utterly captivating. Wrenna turned, feeling the weight of her words hang between them, the air thick with anticipation. "It's our home, Zaire. My grandmother loved this place, and I want to honor that. Not everything needs to turn into a cafe or a trendy boutique." He pushed off the railing, stepping closer, the tension simmering as his gaze bore into her. "But your grandmother's vision can't survive without funding. What do you want me to do? Throw money at the old ladies baking pies down the street?" His tone was laced with sarcasm, contrasting sharply with his earlier earnestness. Silence enveloped them, punctuated by the soft flutter of wings as a bird danced through the branches above. Wrenna's heart raced. This was more than just a conversation about the neighborhood. It was about their values, about touching the roots of their pasts, the complications that intertwined their lives. "Sometimes it feels like we have to fight just to exist," she finally replied, her voice a whisper meant only for him, vulnerability cracking through her bravado. "People think they know what's best for us, but we don't want help from people who don't understand us," he interrupted, his features softening in recognition. "I get it. I do." He reached out, brushing his thumb gently against her arm, sending a shiver through her. "But Zaire's way doesn't always mean limitations. It opens doors, you know." Her breath caught, the heat of his confidence soothing yet stoking a fire inside her. "Open doors for whom? You or both of us?" Across the garden, their friends began a lively exchange. Khalil and Nia, both young, gifted artists, debated the merits of street art versus traditional painting. Laughter erupted like fireworks, vibrant and joyous, providing a stark contrast to the grave weight of their conversation. Zaire glanced over, then back at Wrenna, the warmth in his voice gone, replaced by something harder. "You think I don't want to fight for us? I do. But when you propose something bold, it feels like you're asking me to leap without knowing if there's a net below." "I thought you liked bold," Wrenna retorted, an unexpected smile creeping onto her lips despite the intensity of the moment. "Isn't that what got you where you are?" "Bold doesn't come without consequences, Wrenna. Do you want to risk it all for this community initiative?" His voice faltered, uncertainty seeping in as he momentarily dropped his bravado. "Risking it all is the only way to truly live. I refuse to be a spectator in my own life." Wrenna stepped closer, her smile widening to bridge the gulf between them. Besides, nothing great was ever achieved without a little chaos. Her playful challenge drew a small chuckle from him, lightening the atmosphere. "Chaos? Is that what we're calling it now?" He shook his head. "You're going to have to sell me on more than just a good heart, Miss Vanderbilt." She bit her lip, leaning into him with a teasing lilt. "Perhaps a little charm might sway you?" "Charm isn't enough," he said, a challenge gleaming in his eyes. Fireflies fluttered through the twilight, casting tiny sparks of light. In that moment, nothing else mattered. Zaire stepped even closer, closing the gap between them, the playful dance of flirtation swaying to a different rhythm, one fueled by passion unspoken. Then what is? She whispered, heart pounding, the world fading away, leaving just the two of them standing on the precipice of something profound. Your resolve, he murmured, his tone low, their breath mingling in the thickening air. In that charged space, they stood together, two forces of nature destined to collide in a world filled with stereotypes, darkness, and unyielding love. Zaire's eyes flickered dangerously, a promise of the storm to come. Then let's make a world worth fighting for, Wrenna declared, knowing the battle ahead was far from straightforward. But with Zaire by her side, she felt emboldened, ready to challenge every expectation. Scene 103. Conquering Obstacles. The late afternoon sun poured through the expansive windows of Wrenna's historic mansion, casting golden beams on the aged wooden floorboards. The air was thick with the comforting scent of fresh coffee and the lingering notes of sandalwood from Wrenna's latest painting session. A high-stakes conversation unfolded in the cozy sitting room where Wrenna paced, her vibrant dress swirling like the colors on her canvases. Do you really expect me to just forget what the world thinks? Wrenna's voice was a mixture of defiance and vulnerability, her hands gesturing emphatically as she confronted Zaire, who leaned casually against the mantel, radiating an effortless elegance against the backdrop of her inherited home. Zaire's deep-set eyes, glistening with intensity, followed her movements. It's not about what the world thinks, he responded, his tone low yet firm, like a bed of coals ready to ignite. It's about what we choose to believe, together. Together? Wrenna echoed, her heart fluttering at the word, though uncertainty shadowed her expression. You with your reputation and me. Who are you to diminish your worth? He interrupted, straightening. You have a gift, Wrenna, a voice that echoes beyond this house. You're not defined by who I am or who they think I am. Before she could respond, the door burst open, and a flurry of laughter swept into the room, pulling their focus. Cade, Wrenna's flamboyant friend with a penchant for drama, strutted in alongside Amara, his sharp wit and exuberance a pragmatic antidote to the heaviness that had settled between them. Darling, the world may be your stage, but don't forget your leading man, Cade chimed, a mischievous smirk plastered across his face. I refuse to let you hide behind that easel any longer. Amara, always ready to support her friend's desire for both art and authenticity, chimed in. Honestly, Wrenna, what do you want? The world is waiting. You can't keep dodging your truth tucked away in brushes and paint. Wrenna ran a hand through her hair, frustration bubbling within her. It's not that simple. There's so much at stake. The family legacy, my art, my future with Zaire. What if being with him brings nothing but trouble? Trouble? You mean passion? Cade smirked, pulling Wrenna closer, his tone conspiratorial. Besides, if trouble ever knocked, you'd send them packing. Look how fierce you are. Zaire's lips quirked up at Cade's confidence. He's got a point. What's more troubling, a daring love or sitting on the sidelines watching life pass by? Wrenna stood frozen, her heart racing as the banter coiled around her like a protective charm. But if the world isn't on my side, what will I fight for? The truth, your truth, he replied, stepping closer. There's freedom in owning who you are, no matter the judgment from outsiders. Then, in a moment of surprising tenderness, Zaire reached for Wrenna's hand. The warmth of his touch sent shivers through her, igniting something deep within. She looked up, meeting his gaze. And what if they reject that truth? I'll crush them, he said, a fierce promise in his voice, his swagger melting into fervor. Together, we can defy everything that tries to divide us. Cade's roar of laughter broke the tension. Oh, please, Zaire, save the monologue for the next Hollywood script. Wrenna doesn't need a knight, she needs a partner. How about you both start by claiming this place first? With a beat of silence that felt suspended in time, Amara invited, let's throw a party, a launch for your art and a stand against the skeptical. You gather your crowd and we'll make the mansion a beacon for your brilliance. Intoxicated by the suggestion, Wrenna smiled, a flicker of excitement brightening her eyes, while Zaire's face shifted into a contemplative frown. You two are relentless. You really think that will change anything? Change? Not about changing anything, Cade countered, his flamboyance on full display. This is about showcasing that love and passion and art are meant to be celebrated. You need to show them what happiness looks like. It's your turn to shine. Amara crossed her arms, leaning in. And who knows, it can draw a line in the sand. You want a future? Fight for it. No one can do it like you. Wrenna's heart thudded against her ribs. Suddenly, clarity illuminated her thoughts, sharper than any brushstroke she could muster on canvas. Then let's do it. Let's throw that party. The room erupted in cheers, and as they began plotting the details, Zaire's gaze lingered on Wrenna, his heart thumping in tandem with determination. He stepped closer, their fingers brushing once again, a simple touch that spoke volumes in a whirlwind of future promises. As the laughter filled the room, Wrenna felt a shift in her spirit. Each of her friends bolstered a growing resilience within, and as uncertain as the winding road ahead appeared, she resolved to traverse it with Zaire at her side. Together, right? She murmured, glancing at him. Always, Zaire replied, his voice a steady anchor in the tempest around them. And with that steadfast promise, the stage was set for whatever trials awaited them next together. They would conquer the world. Scene 104, Transitioning Lives. As twilight draped its velvet cloak over Los Angeles, the golden hues of the setting sun began to bleed into the muted earth tones of Wrenna Vanderbilt's newly inherited mansion. The sprawling estate, with its manicured gardens and intricate wrought iron gates, stood as a testament to the legacy of her grandmother. Inside, the air was thick with the aroma of fresh sea salt and rosemary, wafting in from the open kitchen window, where Wrenna meticulously sautéed vegetables for a dinner meant to celebrate both her art gallery's latest success and her burgeoning relationship with Zaire Vellore. In the living room, Zaire lounged on a plush tufted sofa, his dark silhouette sharp against the fading light. He sighed deeply, a sound like the settling of heavy weights, his gaze flitting across the walls adorned with Wrenna's artwork, vibrant, emotional canvases that told stories of struggles and triumphs. Yet, the silence wasn't entirely comfortable. The unspooling threads of their lives mingled precariously, as if poised at a tightrope. Wrenna, he called, his voice low, filled with an undertone that hinted at a deeper urgency, about the gallery opening. His words hung in the air, suspended like the aroma of garlic simmering on the stove. Wrenna spun around, her wild curls bouncing, a radiant smile splitting her face. It was a whirlwind, so many eyes on my work. I'm still catching my breath, she exclaimed, her enthusiasm lighting the room. Yet beneath the surface, joy flickered uncertainty, a hint of worry that danced in the shadows of her expression. Zaire arched an eyebrow, not quite convinced. That's all? You've worked hard for this moment. A sudden clatter from the kitchen jostled her, and she smirked, dismissing it with a wave of her hand. It's a small victory, Zaire, but it's more than that, he interrupted, leaning forward, filling the space between them with a gravity she could almost touch. You deserve to own it, to own this. At that assertive note, Wrenna's smile faltered, replaced by a memory that clouded her eyes. She turned back to the stove as if the flickering flames held the answers she sought. I know, but I still feel like an imposter sometimes. Is this really what I'm meant to do? She stirred the pan, her focus sharp, the sizzling vegetables crackling as if they understood her turmoil. Zaire crossed the room in swift strides, his presence looming yet comforting. He placed a steady hand on her shoulder, grounding her. Think about where you started. Don't let fear steal your light. You're a force. Just then, the doorbell chimed, a bright, unwelcome interruption to their moment. I'll get it, Wrenna said, forcing a smile and stepping away from Zaire's touch, the warmth of it lingering like a memory. She opened the door to reveal Asha, her fiery friend, who was dressed in a vibrant, flowing wrap. Surprise! I brought cupcakes, Asha chirped, beaming brightly, her presence an electric charge that infused the air with energy. Perfect timing, Wrenna laughed, her tension momentarily forgotten as Asha breezed past her with contagious enthusiasm. Zaire leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, an amused smirk gracing his dark lips. I see you've traded your aspirations for sugar and flour? Asha rolled her eyes dramatically. You're just jealous you're not invited to my cupcake empire. She wrapped her arms around Wrenna, squeezing her fiercely. Okay, spill. What's going on with you two? What do you mean? Wrenna feigned innocence, her cheeks flushing subtly, a flicker of joy igniting within her chest. Asha leaned in closer, dropping her voice conspiratorially. You both are practically glowing. I can smell the romantic tension from here. She turned to Zaire. You'd better be treating my Rennie like the queen she is, or I will come for you. Zaire chuckled, the corner of his mouth lifting in a playful challenge. Oh, don't worry. I'm planning an elaborate heist of her affections. Wrenna's heart raced at his implication, caught between laughter and the thread of something deeper, something almost foreign yet irresistibly enticing. A heavy pause lingered. The butterflies in Wrenna's stomach were suddenly heralded by the doorbell ringing anew. A rapid knock, a sense of urgency that set her on edge. Um, excuse me, Wrenna said, her smile fading as she headed toward the door again, sensing the world's weight creeping back in. Zaire stood straighter, alert, a reminder that the complexities of their lives didn't always allow for easy moments. As Wrenna opened the door, a tall figure loomed in the evening shadows, a man dressed in a crisp suit. Miss Vanderbilt, we need to talk, he stated, his voice sharp, electrifying the stillness of the night as concern etched itself into the lines of Zaire's face. Those words sliced through the merriment like a blade, pulling her deeper into the darkness of what was unknowingly circling them, the chaotic underbelly of Zaire's world colliding with her blossoming dreams. About what? Wrenna asked, her heart thumping loud and heavy, uncertainty threading through the air once more. Scene 105. Embracing responsibilities. The morning sun drenched Tresor mansion in a warm golden light, illuminating the sprawling lawn where Wrenna Vanderbilt stood, hands on her hips, surveying the chaos unfolding around her. The air was thick with the earthy scent of freshly turned soil, mingled with the sweet fragrance of blooming magnolias, lush, vibrant, and full of life, unlike her tangled emotions. She could hear the soft murmur of distant voices, the rustle of volunteers mingled with the clinking of tools as they planted the community garden that she had envisioned. Can you believe this turnout? Wrenna exclaimed to Zaire Vellore, who leaned against the impressive oak tree, arms crossed, his dark eyes shimmering with pride. I thought maybe a handful of people would show up, but look. Zaire smiled, an expression that transformed his typically composed features. They see what you're doing, Wrenna. You've turned this place into a beacon. He stepped closer, the subtle scent of cedar and musk enveloping her. It matters, especially in our world. Her gaze flickered past him, taking in the adults and children toiling joyfully, their laughter weaving through the rustling leaves. Each fleck of dirt under their nails and every bright flower planted was a stitch in the fraying community fabric, and her heart swelled. It feels special, she said softly, stirring the air between them with the weight of her words. Not just special, revolutionary. Zaire pushed himself off the tree, moving into her space with a confidence that belied his usual reserved demeanor. This isn't just about flowers and vegetables. It's about bringing people together. You're fighting for them. Wrenna's voice faltered, but the smile twitching at the corners of her mouth spoke volumes. I'm just trying to do something meaningful. I want them to feel they belong. Then embrace it, he challenged, his voice lowering, holding a thrill that sent a shiver through her. You've got the strength to lead and the passion to inspire change. Let them see you. As she met his gaze, the world around her blurred. The cacophony of laughter faded to a soft chorus of heartbeats. What if they see the scars, Zaire? Will they still believe in me? You're not your scars. You're your recovery, and that's powerful. He stepped closer, brushing a loose curl of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her skin. She leaned into his touch unconsciously, and the air crackled with an electric tension echoed by unsaid words. Their moment was interrupted by Laura, a spirited volunteer with a flower-patterned sundress, calling from the edge of the garden. Hey, Wrenna, help? I think this tomato plant might be upside down. The laughter that followed cut through the charged air, grounding the moment and reminding them of the chaos around. Let's see what the tomato has to say, Wrenna said, reluctantly stepping back from Zaire's aura, the cool breeze caressing her face like an old friend. As they moved together toward Laura, they passed Jacob and Sarah, two teenagers, one juggling dirt-filled pots while the other waved a mini watering can like a sword. Are you sure you want to plant tomatoes? Jacob teased. They're not as cool as pumpkins. Pumpkins? Sarah shot back, rolling her eyes. Really? Those are just for Halloween. Tomatoes are for everyone. Although, Wrenna interjected, kneeling to assist them, the damp earth yielding delicious warmth beneath her hands. I think an inconspicuous pump of red in our garden could bring some great color. Ha! We can have a veritable farm then. Jacob laughed, his enthusiasm infectious. Zaire stood nearby, witnessing the scene with a glimmer of amusement in his eyes. Wrenna caught him watching, and in that fleeting moment their connection pulsed again. For every cheer and laugh shared with the community, his understanding gaze healed a piece of her heart she had thought lost. Later that afternoon, after an engaging sun-soaked lunch, Zaire turned to her, brushing dust off his sleeve. "You're incredible, you know that? No one else could pull this off." "Thanks, but—" Wrenna hesitated. "I couldn't have done it without you. Maybe it's time you embrace that too." He moved closer again, his presence wrapping around her like a shield against the world. "You're not just bringing flowers to the ground, you're planting dreams." As they locked eyes, the sky overhead darkened slightly, clouds gathering in muted shadows. The tension in the air heightened, resonating like a silent promise. Amidst the drifting voices and laughter, Wrenna realized something profound. She wasn't merely connecting her community, she was entwining the strands of her future with Zaire's. "Whatever comes next, I'm ready," she finally stated, a steady resolve creeping into her voice. His smile reflected the hope shimmering between them. "Then let's embrace the storm together." Scene 106, Community Corruption. The sun draped its golden hues across the sprawling grounds of Vanderbilt Manor, illuminating the age-old oak trees that framed the estate. Wrenna stood at the mansion's threshold, a soft breeze gently tugging at her loose curls, but her gaze was fixed somewhere deeper. She could almost feel the weight of the past lurking behind the intricate carvings of her grandmother's legacy. It was a beautiful facade, yet beneath it lay secrets that twisted in the heart of the community, a web of corruption woven through the very fabric of their town. Zaire emerged from the shadows of the porch, his presence distinct and commanding. The clipped way he moved hinted at the tension simmering beneath his skin. His eyes, dark and intense, seized Wrenna's attention as he stepped closer, the lingering scent of cedar and musk enveloping them both. "We need to talk," he said, his voice rough yet inviting, pulling her from her reverie. Wrenna nodded, feeling a delicate flutter in her chest. "About the meeting with the city council?" "Yeah, but it's bigger than that," he replied, the slight clench of his jaw betraying the urgency of the matter. They stepped into the cool, dimly lit interior of the manor, the sudden quietness enveloping them like a shroud. In the study, the air was thick with the smell of polished wood and aged paper. Zaire turned to face her fully, a fire igniting in his gaze. "There's something rotten at the core of this town. I've been digging, and the council members, they're in bed with some shady developers. If we don't act soon, they'll have this place stripped of its charm." Wrenna inhaled sharply, the implications crashing over her like a tidal wave. "But there are allies, aren't they?" Her voice trembled slightly, fear creeping in alongside determination. "Some allies," he shot back, stepping closer, lowering his voice as the emotion bubbled beneath the surface. "They're looking to line their pockets. We've got to expose what's happening before it's too late." The tension between them danced like a fragile flame. Wrenna's heart raced, her pulse matching the urgency of the moment. "And how do we do that?" "We're against powerful people." Zaire's gaze softened slightly, yet it burned with resolve. "We gather evidence, talk to the businesses, they'll have something to say about the shady dealings. If we can rally the community." Just then, the unmistakable sound of laughter erupted from the adjoining room. It was Leah, Wrenna's energetic friend, and Darnell, who always brought buoyancy to any situation. Raucous conversations spilled through the walls, and the couple's moods shifted, an impromptu gathering in the midst of their serious plans. Zaire glanced toward the noise, a flash of annoyance darting across his face. "We're going to have to push through distractions like this. Or we could join them for a second," Wrenna suggested, a smile creeping across her lips despite the gravity of the situation. He hesitated, clenched fists relaxing just a bit. "Fine. We'll present a united front, and then we'll go back to plotting." As they made their way towards the laughter, Wrenna felt a warmth blooming in her chest, the juxtaposition of serious business and the spontaneous joy of her friends igniting a thrill she hadn't expected. The group filled the expansive living room, Leah spinning wildly as Darnell struck dramatic poses, their infectious energy sweeping through the space. "Look who's here!" Leah exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Wrenna, you have to see what Darnell just did." He tried to juggle 3 water balloons, and let's just say, Wrenna interrupted, stepping in beside Zaire. "I can only imagine the disaster." Darnell feigned offense. "Disaster? Please, it was art in motion." Zaire chuckled, the sound rumbling low and rich, cutting through the comedic chaos. His body relaxed a little, his earlier tension dissipating within the warmth of friendship. Leah's laughter echoed, and Wrenna felt her heart lighten. Just for a moment, the weight of the corruption they faced receded into the background, replaced by playful antics and camaraderie. Yet, the shadows loomed large, and they were not done. "All right, enough horseplay," Zaire interjected with a grin. "We've got bigger fish to fry, but I can see you all have interesting stories. Would anyone care to share?" Leah raised an eyebrow, cocking her head. "What, a crime boss letting us in on the big plans?" She laughed, her voice dripping with playful sarcasm. Wrenna exchanged glances with Zaire. The air was thick with unspoken words, a promise lingering just beneath the surface. He caught her gaze, and in that moment, the deep desire to protect and cherish surged between them. "Well then," Zaire said, looking around the room, "we might just need a little more than jokes to take them down." The laughter faded as the group began to focus, anticipation mixing with the lingering taste of adventure.